His legacy will forever be that of a convicted murderer who happened to write songs.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we'll be looking at 10 infamous crimes committed by rock musicians.
I deeply regret doing what I was sent to prison for.
For this list, we'll be looking at the most infamous headlines that focused on stars of the genre being accused or convicted of breaking laws. We won't be discussing the death of Nancy Spungen, since Sid Vicious of the Sex Pistols was never convicted for this crime. Did any of these tales shock you? Let us know in the comments. Vehicular manslaughter. Vince Neil. Mötley Crüe. Hanoi Rocks was a formative Finnish glam band whose work was hugely influential in the 1980s hair metal scene. After gaining fame, it made perfect sense for the band to join forces with U.S. heavyweights Mötley Crüe for their first American tour. Unfortunately, tragedy struck during a break from the tour. Hanoi Rocks and the crew were enjoying a party at singer Vince Neil's California home. At one point, the homeowner and Hanoi drummer Razzle drove out to grab more beer while both being heavily intoxicated. After Neil struck a car on the way home, 2 people were severely injured and Razzle succumbed to his injuries. The surviving musician went on to prison for less than 20 days for the tragic accident.
This could have happened to me, or it could have happened to Tommy or Mick or any of our friends, and it's something that we've said, it's time to straighten up about.
Indecent assaults. Dave Holland. Judas Priest. While Judas Priest went through a number of drummers during their career, Dave Holland was something of a mainstay who worked with the band on a number of high-profile albums. But Holland's legacy was forever tainted in the early 2000s. During a court case, he was convicted for assaulting and attempting to initiate indecent contact with a young drumming student. Despite his insistence that nothing inappropriate had happened, he was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Holland also had his work on an upcoming album completely taken off so someone else could come in and record his part. After the grim news of the story broke, the musician unsuccessfully attempted to refute the claims and recover his reputation. Soliciting a hitman. Tim Lambesis. As I Lay Dying.
Supplied money, supplied gate codes, supplied dates that would be convenient.
Vocalist Tim Lambesis led the popular metalcore outfit As I Lay Dying as they achieved chart success and garnered various awards. However, the band nearly came to a permanent end due to his actions. Lambesis once asked a criminal to assassinate his ex-wife while the vocalist was watching his kids. But the musician didn't know that he was actually speaking to a detective who immediately reported the meeting.
When specifically asked, "Do you want her dead?" he said, "Yes, that's exactly what I want."
Lambesis eventually pleaded guilty and spent a little over a decade in jail for his grim solicitation. After serving his time, he managed to reunite with the band and release more music. In the years since his attempted crime, Lambesis has admitted that his actions were wrong. Church burnings. The Norwegian black metal scene. The Norwegian black metal scene gained worldwide attention in the early 90s, thanks to some truly infamous crimes. One of the most visually arresting and notorious crimes from the scene was the rash of church burnings perpetrated by members of the scene. According to several interviews and reports, members of the musical collective resented various religious groups. Throughout the 90s, a number of Norwegian churches were burnt down. Individuals like Varg Vikernes of the band Burzum and Samith from a group called Emperor were both caught. However, many cases still went unsolved. Both historic churches and at least one life was lost during these arson attacks. Illegal surveillance and trafficking. Chuck Berry.
Good evening, ladies.
You're him, aren't you?
Well, what him are you looking for?
This godfather of rock and roll was infamous for committing several serious crimes.
Now you can't get me. Baby, you can't get me.
A woman once accused Berry of attacking and injuring her at a hotel. A few years later, he was accused of illegally recording people within bathrooms of his restaurant that bore his name. Officers were able to find tapes that supported those claims as well as marijuana. Berry ultimately spent a small fortune in fines and for his defense to address the case. Decades before that scandal, the musician was brought to court after he brought a girl from Mexico to Missouri. Although he claimed it was to give her a job opportunity, she claimed he had darker intentions. The jury found Barry guilty after a trial, and he received a 3-year sentence.
I know that my very good dear friend, Mr. Jerry Lee Lewis, has a 13-year-old wife. We're stopping by his home on the way.
A career predator, Gary Glitter. Although Gary Glitter saw a meteoric rise in popularity back in the 1970s, the disgraced singer's fall was equally quick and irreparably sharp. It all began when obscene materials featuring young people were discovered on his laptop. After spending some time in jail and being placed on a sex offender registry in England, Glitter moved abroad. But his change of scenery didn't stop him from getting into additional trouble.
I deeply regret doing what I was sent to prison for.
While living in Vietnam, Glitter was accused and convicted of several crimes related to young people. He served time in that country before having to return to the UK. Upon reaching England, Glitter faced additional charges and was told to spend 16 years in jail for his past crimes.
Victims don't put it behind them. Unfortunately, it's with you forever. It's a life sentence.
Possession of illegal content. Carl Logan, Man-O-War.
I want you all to give a metal welcome to Carl Logan. Ready to rock, brother.
Carl Logan was a longtime guitarist for American heavy metal legends Man-O-War. His tenure with the band was brought to an abrupt end when he was arrested in 2018. During an investigation, it was found that Logan had multiple illegal recordings of young people being assaulted. Within a week of the arrest, Man-O-War officially severed all ties with the guitarist. Logan eventually stated that he knowingly possessed the exploitative content in courts. Ultimately, he was tasked with spending just over a decade of his life in prison in 2022. Man-O-War's swift reaction to Logan's arrest makes it highly unlikely he'll reunite with the band again. Attempted assault and possession of harmful materials. Ian Watkins, Lost Prophets. Charges against former Lost Prophets singer Ian Watkins were so severe that he was the subject of a sting operation dubbed Operation Globe. The investigation uncovered that the musician had participated in a number of malicious crimes. During court proceedings, Watkins admitted that he had assaulted victims who could not consent to adult activity on multiple occasions. Authorities also discovered he had a large amount of videos of illegal acts in his possession. Additionally, the former musician's co-defendants were also mothers of a few of his alleged victims. After receiving a 29-year prison conviction, Watkins was still caught trying to reach out and exploit women outside of his facility.
Because he shows no emotion, he shows no sympathy, he shows no guilt, and in this case the evidence is overwhelming.
The murder of Euronymous, Varg Vikernes, Burzum and Mayhem. Oystein Euronymous Orshet faced criticism over reports that he used the bone fragments of a deceased friend to make accessories.
Because I had plans to kill him myself.
However, he would later become the center of a grim act of violence. In 1993, he received a visit from his old bandmate Varg Vikernes that resulted in a violent confrontation.
We're cool, okay? Okay, like you said in your letter, friends.
Euronymous was found dead by the end of the night. Although Vikernes later claimed he was defending himself, the jury still found him guilty for murder. The musician also had to face charges of arson against churches and for having explosives. After spending 15 years in jail, he returned to music. However, movies like Lord of Chaos that depicted the violent confrontation proved that people haven't forgotten what Vikernes did. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. The death of Lana Clarkson, Phil Spector. Phil Spector's brief time on the performing side of rock was soon eclipsed by his legacy as one of the genre's most talented and successful producers. But those accomplishments were then overshadowed by an infamous crime. On a fateful night in 2003, actress Lana Clarkson went over to Spector's house. A driver soon heard a gunshot and found the performer dead. In the wake of this discovery, Spector both said he did it and claimed that she was responsible. The first attempt at convicting him of the crime resulted in a mistrial, but the second trial found him guilty. After he was sentenced to nearly 2 decades of jail time, he died in prison in 2021. Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.